Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another video. Today for you guys, we got even more information to talk about when looking at Melody of Memory. Obviously, we got an absolute crazy information drop at the start of this week, as there were just a massive amount of interviews that were conducted with Tetsuya Nomura sitting down talking about the game. There was just no way that I could cram in absolutely every single corner of information that came out this week, so here we are with the very final video to do with all of that goodness. So let's get straight into it, starting off with some story related information, giving us a small little tease towards the excitement factor of the upcoming story portion. DualShock is asked, is Melody of Memory supposed to be some sort of a breather before going back into more serious themes? Or can we expect serious story developments to happen in Melody of Memory? Nomura said the overall concept of Melody of Memory is to look back at what's happened so far. So through the game, you'll see a mix of serious and lighthearted moments. There's also another element that will be a big part of the plot, and we don't want to spoil it, with some newly included scenes that you may have seen in the trailer. They might not be as robust as a Kingdom Hearts game, but we do have something prepared to give that sort of surprise that is unique to the series, and it will give you a glimpse into what's going to come next. We hope that players look forward to it. As we already know, Melody of Memory is kind of acting as that almost bridge between that of the previous saga into the next. A title that isn't as full-blown as really any other previous Kingdom Hearts installment, but will still give us a decent amount of new story context to give us an idea as to the developments that are going to ensue. We already have inklings about what could potentially happen for the future of Kingdom Hearts with what happened in Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, but this will be building onto those small inklings, because at this point, really, towards the future of Kingdom Hearts, the story could go in so many different directions. I do hope that there is something to do with the Ozora side of things, although I think it's fairly well obvious at this point we are going to be getting Master of Masters developments and whatnot. I really do hope that there is something there towards the Ozora side of stuff. We have seen a scene so far of Sora within the final world, although whether or not that is the real Sora or some kind of illusion of sorts, an update towards his side of things though would be really nice. And to add on to the story related stuff coming from the Twinfinite interview, it seems like there's going to be some pretty insane stuff that happens throughout the story portions, even though this is only about a 10-hour experience, and that there's probably not going to be overly too many different story cutscenes. I would say the developments that will ensue here will be worthwhile. Within the interview from Twinfinite, Suzui mentioned, if you look at some of the background elements, there are some interesting things that we have done just to give respect to the original source. Talking in reference to this game being almost a recap of the entire series, original source being the first saga. You can see that throughout various points in the game. Plus, Nomura has provided us with script material, scenario material, and some of it is new to us. It did bring us to tears, and it was very emotional. So we're hoping that will be relayed to players as a surprise element. Yeah, most certainly seems as if Tetsuya Nomura is cooking up something really dang spicy for Melody of Memory's story, even though it will be short-lived. The whole it brought us to tears thing, as well as it being very emotional. After Kingdom Hearts 3, Papa Nomura, please do not. But regardless, I am so excited for this.
I need to know what the hell is going to happen this time.
We also got some small pieces of context towards exactly how the story will be laid out for Melody of Memory. When the game was initially revealed to us, we were a little bit unsure as to exactly how the story layout will go, in the sense of, at the start of the game, we'll probably get a big story portion, then we pretty much play the entirety of the game, and then we'll get the very final story portion. Not like a traditional Kingdom Hearts setup where you play through the game and you've got story portions happening all throughout. Kind of seems like it's going to be different this time for Melody of Memory, and Nomura almost confirms this fact from the PlayStation Japan interview. The question was, in the title announcement trailer, we see that there's some story in regards to Kairi. How exactly is this story woven into the game? Nomura said, I cannot answer exactly where the story will come into play within the game. However, what I can say is this game does not contain a huge volume of story. It's more like an accompaniment to the Kingdom Hearts series, where I wanted to be able to have something that shows the highlights within the series. So a new story was written for this. I also wanted the rhythm action in the game to have specific meaning. You might think that this is just a normal rhythm game as you play it, but it actually connects to the story. That's the kind of feel I wanted for this game. They went on to ask, if the highlights show episodes from the past, then will Kairi's untold memories be revealed up until now? Nomura said, this game's structure is different from previous installments where the story unfolds as you play. I think you'll just have to play this game to see for yourself. So that very final answer right there just sort of elaborates more on the story layout and kind of confirms to us that it seems like we'll get that big story portion right at the beginning and then kind of right at the end. I'm kind of thinking that the game will start off with the Kairi origin stuff with apprentice Xehanort and Kairi within the arc, her earlier days in Radiant Garden, some stuff happening in obviously the computer room of Radiant Garden, and then ended off in the final world portion where it seems like Kairi comes in contact with what appears to be the Master of Masters. It'll still be interesting to see exactly how that's going to work, if that is the true final world, or if it is just something that's going on within inside of Kairi. In regards to the music side of things, we have some interesting information. This first piece is coming from JP Games. They asked, will songs from Kingdom Hearts and the Disney worlds be featured on the soundtrack? If so, what will the relationship be? Suzui said, well, there will be songs from both universes. Some are from Kingdom Hearts and some are from Disney. It is difficult to give an exact relationship, but there will be some great Disney songs in Kingdom Hearts MoM. More precisely, not only will you be able to play songs that have been heard in previous Kingdom Hearts titles, but also other songs from the Disney originals that were not used in Kingdom Hearts. We are very happy about that. So this is a really interesting slice. We are getting all of that Kingdom Hearts music that we have heard before in many of the other different installments, but there are actually going to be some original Disney pieces in this game. And by this, I'm assuming that he's talking about the original Disney songs that are heard within the actual source movies. I would absolutely love to get stuff like I Just Can't Wait to Be King from Lion King in this. Maybe You've Got a Friend in Me from Toy Story. I'll Make a Man Out of You from Mulan. These are some top tier picks right here, people. I absolutely cannot wait to see what sort of Disney originals will be put into this game. This would most certainly be one of the prime opportunities to use some of those Disney originals in a rhythm game, so I'm really glad to see that Square Enix are doing so. JP Games also asked if there will be any new tracks for Melody of Memory, specifically Melody of Memory versions of songs, or just new tracks overall for this game. This is what Suzui had to kind of say about that. Shimomura even composed a new title and closing song for this game, which I hope you will look forward to. When it comes to arrangements, there won't be any brand new versions. However, we were so free and built existing arrangements into the game that were otherwise only released on albums apart from the original game soundtracks. So a little bit sad that there will not be any Melody of Memory original music to be heard within this game, though of course, like he did say, Shimomura made a new title theme, which is obviously the Melody of Memory version of Dearly Beloved, which sounds absolutely fantastic. Definitely up there with some of the best Dearly Beloved so far. He also mentioned closing song within the same breath, so kind of makes me think, is this separate to that of the title track? I don't think they'll end up using the MoM version of Dearly Beloved for the closing track, so we may also get something new for when the credits roll too, from the sounds of this. This also confirms to us that some arrangements that can only be heard within certain different albums, namely like the concert albums from the Kingdom Hearts orchestras, these also might be included into Melody of Memory. There have also been some other albums that have released that include exclusive versions of different Kingdom Hearts themes that are only contained in those albums. So that's definitely to look forward to for the people that haven't heard those versions of those songs. We got some information towards the leveling progression side of Melody of Memory. Within the Game Informer interview, they asked, Kingdom Hearts is an action RPG. What kind of progression system will we see in Melody of Memory in terms of new abilities and leveling up? Suzui said the progression system for Melody of Memory is leveling. As we already know, we can level up the teams throughout the game. Because it's a rhythm action game, it was a bit difficult to differentiate the different moves and actions within the gameplay, but through leveling, your character will gain higher HP, so you won't get a game over as easily, which should be beneficial when you're trying to clear the different stages. Plus, as you level, your attack power will also increase. Of course, bosses will need a few extra hits, but as you level up and become stronger, you won't take as long to stun them to get an advantage on attacking the bosses, and you'll get a bonus for that. There is no ability system that you'll be bolstering throughout the process. Each leader will have 2 different types of ranged and melee attacks, but that's about it. So the big 2 things here with leveling up is more HP as well as attack power increase. One way of most likely achieving the highest score on a lot of these different tracks is maxing out the team levels and then returning to those tracks to gain the highest scores now that you have increased attack power, especially with the bosses, as of course the example here that was given, as your attack power increases, you'll be able to take down the bosses much easily. We got a bit more context towards the versus competitive mode in the game coming from the IGN interview. They mention right here the 1v1 mode, which uses tracks that have been unlocked in World Tour mode, is played online or locally against AI. Rounds begin with each player choosing a preference of track, and the game randomly selects which one will be played. Then it's a race to the best score, with your opponent's score displayed on your heads-up display to encourage/upset you. During rounds, you'll be able to make use of tricks. There are 10 of these different types of tricks, Suzoi says. At the beginning of the track, you'll only be able to use 1 trick, but towards the end, you'll be able to use 2 simultaneously. That makes it even more tricky and complicated about how you can build these together. Winning a versus match will bag you 2 collectible cards, and in a move that feels very evocative of Kingdom Hearts' kindly values, losers are more like runner-ups, as they get 1 card too. In regards to how to win, yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. Whoever ends up getting the highest amount of score by the end of the song is deemed the winner. The trick system though, we've seen a little bit of this within the footage that we've seen so far. These tricks will be used to give our opponent a disadvantage of sorts. There are 10 different types of tricks, and it seems like what trick you pick up is just completely random each time. 2 as an example that we saw from the most recent trailer is vanishing enemies and tiny enemies. Though we don't know what these do just yet, tiny enemies I would say makes, well, the enemies small, probably bolstering a smaller amount of points, and vanishing enemies can be quite beneficial for you, as it sounds like it may remove enemies entirely from your opponent's track, making them to lose out on score. However, you do receive those collectible cards via playing these online modes, which is super cool to know. Just to reiterate, there are a total of 800 different cards to collect. You receive 2 for winning and 1 for losing. Still nice to know that there is something at the end of that tunnel, even if you do end up coming last. And finally, coming from JP Games, they did actually ask the question as to if there is going to be some kind of next-gen version of Melody of Memory. You guys should probably already know the answer to this, but Suzoi did mention there are currently no plans for a next-gen release of Melody of Memory. To be expected, to be fair. However, though, of course, we know that both PlayStation 5 as well as Xbox Series X, these systems will be backwards compatible with the previous generation. So you'll be able to just whip Melody of Memory into these bad boys, no worries. So that right there is the final news roundup of all of the information that came out this week, fellas. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. This gives us so much more context towards the different systems that will be found in MoM. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. However, guys, I'm Cynical. Hopefully you guys are having a fantastic day, and until next time, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.